Plantar fasciitis injury prevention tip number one for runners: wear less supportive shoes, but don't wear your flip flops while on your feet for multiple hours. Improper footwear or lack of progression in certain shoes can be the number one trigger to suffer a painful episode of plantar fasciitis. Are you a runner who's been frustrated in the past that whenever you try to increase your speed or increase your distance, you just get pain right on your heel bone or the arch of your foot? You feel it when you take that first step out of bed in the morning or get up from your desk during your workday when you've been sitting for more than a half hour. You notice it's worse the day after your long run or faster running workouts, and now you've started to feel pain with running too. It could occur in the beginning of a run and feel stiff, and then it goes away, and then it can start to kind of increase again toward the end of your run. Has this happened to you before? I know it has for me. Now, you are worried that you're going to make it worse if you continue to run. So you stop training. You even take days off. You even take weeks off of running, and you just pray that it's going to go away one day and you're going to be able to run. You avoid going to the doctor because you know what they're going to tell you, right? They're just going to tell you to stop running, and you start Googling heel pain in runners, and you just, heard that you should try icing it. You should tape it. You should get some arch supports. You should get orthotics. And you've tried new shoes because you heard Hoka were great for plantar fasciitis from a friend of yours. And if this is you, then you need to keep listening to these 10 injury prevention tips I'm going to unleash on you. In this training, I'm going to unravel the mystery of how we as runners prevent plantar fasciitis during the summer months and continue to train for that fall race on our calendar. So whether you're about to embark on your first marathon training or you're a seasoned half marathoner, by now you've been suffering from heel pain whenever you try to run faster or longer, then this training is for you. If this is our first introduction, first off, welcome. I'm Dr. Duane Scotti. I'm a running physical therapist, run coach, educator, founder of Spark Healthy Runner, and creator of the Healthy Runner podcast. And my mission is to preserve the health and longevity of runners everywhere by allowing them to get stronger, run faster, and enjoy lifelong injury-free running. And if you're interested in this plantar fasciitis topic, then you can learn more about what plantar fasciitis is and exactly how to treat it with our complimentary Spark Healthy Runner free download resource on how to run without heel pain. In this resource, I share with you the specific tactics to start running faster, further, and without stubborn plantar fasciitis pain. These have been the true, tried, tested strategies that have kept all the runners I've worked with on a one-on-one basis for my past 20-year career as a running PT, and really allow them to finally say peace out, plantar fasciitis for good. And if you don't have time to listen to this right now, then go ahead, download the free plantar fasciitis ebook by going to learn.sparkhealthyrunner.com, or wherever you're listening to this, just click the link. I will have it linked below, and watch the replay of this training when the time is right for you. The best part is that there's a ton of supplemental visuals, videos, how-to exercise videos on the things I'm going to be talking about today that you can implement into your training. So again, in this training, I'm going to really share 10 tips to prevent plantar fasciitis for summer running that you can implement before your runs, during your runs, and what to do after your runs. And if you stick around long enough, I will share the single best recovery strategy to prevent plantar fasciitis in runners that will allow you to continue hard 5K, half marathon, or marathon training without having to worry about heel pain again. Now let's get into this. Tip number one is to wear less supportive shoes, but don't wear your flip-flops while on your feet for multiple hours. And this is probably the number one trigger that I see, especially during the summer months, because we all kind of throw those flip-flops on, those less supportive shoes, because we want to allow our feet to breathe, right? We're poolside, we're going to the beach, we're outside at the barbecue. And this is again, the most common trigger that I see runners suffering from plantar fasciitis. So when the weather gets warm, then, our feet are really in these shoes for the first time in quite some time. So I want you to think about, as that weather gets warmer, as you start to think about, all right, I'm going to pull out the flip flops, I'm going to pull out the sandals, then you need to think about your footwear selection and usage like you would your training. And what I mean by that is proper progression is critical. So going from not wearing flip-flops to standing all day at the family picnic, the barbecue, or walking around the amusement park will certainly be too much too soon on your plantar fascia and create an inflammatory reaction and then a chronic case of heel pain that can take months to go away. And this is going to affect your running. So I was actually recently reminded of this while wearing my Birkenstock for a little too long, while walking around, spending 3 hours at Disney Springs while I was on a little daddy-daughter date with my daughter. So it was definitely the longest period of time. And generally speaking, the Birks, feel pretty good. They give you some good arch support, but there's really no cushioning. They're pretty hard, right? If you're on cement, concrete for multiple hours, and my foot wasn't used to doing that, right? So it was kind of going from like 0 to 100, right? And my foot kind of had a little inflammatory reaction afterwards. So this is where it's like at the forefront of my mind, because I do think, and actually Sandra shared this in episode 236 in her story, where she went for her long run and then she was standing all day, right? After that. And that was kind of the trigger of her pain. So I really want you to think about, in order to prevent plantar fasciitis, is thinking about gradually increasing your standing time and then considering your footwear. And then also, if you're going to have to stand all day long, move that long run to a different day. You got to modify your training. All right. So kind of plan that out in advance. When we're doing those really, really long runs, we want to think about, how am I going to allow my body the optimal recovery it needs after that long run? So hopefully that's helpful for you, because plantar fasciitis is like one of the most common running related injuries. And, I help runners with these all the time. And there are like strategies that you can implement to like prevent heel pain from starting or coming back. And one of the biggest things is you have to have a positive mindset that you can run a marathon or a half marathon, and you don't have to suffer heel pain this training cycle. And that is like critical. And you don't have to be preordained to getting injured while training for a race. And you most certainly don't have to just like suck it up or stop running because you're getting older. And I also want you to know that even if you do get heel pain, this injury is not going to be catastrophic, meaning it is extremely rare for your plantar fascia to actually like tear off of the bone and actually have a full tear of the plantar fascia. And it doesn't happen when we're running the paces we run for endurance events like 5K, 10K, half marathon, or marathon distances. So you will not do any long-term damage to your foot. And yes, you can prevent plantar fasciitis with proper footwear progression. And that's tip number 1 for plantar fasciitis injury prevention for runners. Tip number 2, we need to stretch the plantar fascia. And this is one of those areas of the body that it is quite rare that you're going to hear me say you need to focus on stretching, because we know how overrated that is with runners. And if you're tuning into this and you're like, what's Duane talking about? I thought I was supposed to stretch in order to prevent injuries. Like, no, that has not been shown in the literature at all. However, there are 2 muscle groups that I would highly recommend stretching muscle-wise, and that could be your hip flexors and your quads. Kind of different story for a different day. And then the other one is going to be your calf muscles that we're going to talk about in a little bit. But then specifically, if you've had plantar fasciitis in the past, then we need to stretch the plantar fascia. And how we do this, the best way to do this is every morning before you take that first step out of bed in the morning. Because if you've had this condition before, that is the worst pain possible. And the reason for that is when we're sleeping, our feet are pointed downward, right? Or underneath the sheets and blankets. And what that does is that shortens our plantar fascia for the 6, 7, 8, 9, maybe 10. I'm super jealous. I'm super jealous if you're getting 8 hours of sleep, but I commend you because you are making sure you're getting the proper recovery for running and training. So I love that. But our fascia gets tight overnight. So now when we go to step on it, we put all of our weight bearing through the foot, and your foot splays out when we weight bear. So it causes irritation at the connection site at the heel bone. And that causes this inflammatory reaction, irritation. You feel pain. You're hobbling to the bathroom. You're like, oh my goodness, my foot's killing me. This plantar fasciitis won't go away at all, right? So if you stretch it before you actually weight bear, then you actually increase the mobility. It's not as painful when you take that first step out of bed in the morning. So I have a whole YouTube video of how to actually stretch the plantar fascia. It's called Plantar Fasciitis Stretching Exercises. It's an instructional video. I talk you through some verbal cues on exactly how to do it. And I just published it ahead of actually this training. So I really wanted to provide these actionable strategies that you can implement on the best plantar fasciitis stretches. And these are the stretches that I found that are super helpful for those who are currently struggling with plantar fasciitis. However, depending upon the level of irritability, you want to make sure that this is not increasing pain, just in case some of you are doing this while you're in pain. But more importantly, prevention-wise, and that's what we're really focusing on today, is how we're going to prevent plantar fasciitis. If you've had it in the past, comes up every training cycle, then start working on the mobility and stretching the plantar fascia ahead of time so this doesn't become an issue for you. All right, so make sure you check out that video. I will definitely link it within our free download, our whole kind of plantar fasciitis resource for you. So check out that video. I think it's going to be super helpful for you. Tip number 3, self myofascial release to the actual fascia. So we just talked about stretching the plantar fascia. Now we're going to talk about like releasing it, because it is a connective tissue. And sometimes for connective tissue issues, the best thing that we can do is like mobilize the fascia or loosen it up. So if you have a massage gun, and you're going to see me in that instructional video I was just talking about, using my knuckles, where you can massage into the bottom of your foot with your knuckles, your thumb, if you have thick thumbs there, or you can use your favorite percussion or massage gun. You can actually go right into the fascia. Make sure, especially if you're having pain, not right over the connection to the bone where it's painful, because that will be painful if you like percuss right over that. So you just go just a little bit further than that connection point. A foot roller, the Naboso ball that I love so much. You guys have heard me talk about this before. The ball itself, a golf ball. And, this is like one of those, the Naboso ball, in case you guys haven't seen, also has this little guy right in here, which is like perfect size. And it's a little squishy. And you actually put this right beyond that attachment site on your fascia, and you can it's such an easy thing to do. You just put your weight over it and massage your foot back and forth. So it's a nice, easy way to actually get a nice release of that fascia. So this is my favorite tool to use for that, as well as the ball, and then it does become a dome. So you can actually just stand on these, and that's what I do throughout my workday with my sit to stand station. When I go into a standing position, I'll actually stand on these and release 3 different points in the fascia of the foot. And it's literally like no work required, because you're just literally standing there, like typing at your computer, doing your work, but you're also releasing your fascia. So super helpful. I found this super helpful to prevent plantar fasciitis. I love these products so much. You guys probably heard me talk about Naboso, but we do have a partnership with them where you can get 20% off. So just kind of click the link that I have for you wherever you're listening to this. Use your code HEALTHYRUNNER to get your 20% off. But that will be super helpful to kind of mobilize the fascia itself. All right, tip 4 for plantar fasciitis injury prevention is going to be foam roll the calf muscles before every single run that you go on. And I show this in my Spark 7 foam rolling and massage stick exercises for runners. Also on my YouTube channel, very popular video on the YouTube channel there. But we need to basically loosen the fascia of the calf muscles as well, because actually that whole fascial system connects from our calf muscles all the way down to the heel bone and underneath the foot, where plantar fasciitis can be a problem. So I really want you to focus on releasing the calf muscles as well as the plantar fascia, especially if you've ever been told that you have tight ankles, you lack ankle mobility, if you've ever been seen by a PT before, and they're like, hey, you got stiff ankles, or you always feel like your calf muscles are tight, your calf muscles have traditionally cramped up for you in marathons, in half marathons, then this is what you want to focus on for prevention. And the way I love to do this is by actually releasing the inside part of the calf muscle, so the medial head of the gastroc, the outside part. So you kind of rotate your foot outward, and then you place your foam roller, your massage gun, your massage stick right in between where the muscle connects to the tendon. So we call this the musculotendinous junction. And usually that's pretty restrictive in runners. And when I was in the clinic, we used to use Graston, instrument assisted. I would find lots of adhesions, restrictions in this area in my runners, and they would really, really like the feeling and the release that we would get when we focus in that area. You can do that on your own with your Self Myofascial Release tools that you have that I just mentioned. So I like to place the foam roller right in that area, and then you do active motion with it. So you should be pointing your toe up and down as you roll over that area. You're going to love it. You're going to feel like, wow, this feels pretty good. I feel a lot looser after you do it. And that's why I recommend doing it before every single run. All right. So get that instructional video. I share some tips, verbal cues, on how to do it correctly, and kind of talk you through it. So I think you're going to find that resource extremely helpful for you. Tip 5, we need to strengthen the foot. So this is really what we call our foot core. And the best way to do this is to activate the deep foot muscles with the short foot exercise. And we need to progress this by doing like what I explain in my instructional video on the short foot, to eventually doing it on one leg, and then eventually doing it on something that is unstable surface, such as like the kinesis board, which is also made by Naboso. And we actually did a full episode with Naboso's founder, Dr. Emily Splickle, who's a functional podiatrist, in episode 212 on the Healthy Runner podcast, that was really talking about better stability means better running. And we really got an in-depth instruction on the kinesis board and why it is so great. But I love it because it does have this specific texture to it where it helps stimulate our nervous system. So it helps us engage those deep foot muscles. So you're able to do like that short foot a little bit easier than if you were just on flat ground. So it really stimulates that nervous system. And then the nice thing about the kinesis board is it is a micro wobble system. So it kind of causes you to be a little wobbly, kicks in those muscles a little bit more. So again, as I work through my workday, as you can see, I like to kill more than one bird with one stone. After I do my low release with the half dome, I like to actually work on my stability and activation of my deep foot muscles. And that's really what we call our foot core. And the reason why I'm talking about this for plantar fasciitis prevention is because these muscles are literally located deeper than the plantar fascia. So the stronger those muscles are, they help support your arch when we run and help decrease stress that is transmitted to the plantar fascia. So if there's less stress, less load in your plantar fascia, there's going to be less risk for you suffering plantar fasciitis painful episode during that longest long run of your training cycle, during that speed work session where you're just ramping it up a little bit more. So make sure you check out the short foot exercise because you got to activate first. And then if you've been doing that for a while, you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you're like, yeah, Duane, I do my short foot all the time. Then that's where the progression is. You got to do the short foot on one leg and then progress to something where you're doing it on an unstable surface. All right. So check that out. Tip number 6 is going to be about your running. So everything I just mentioned is before your run. So now let's talk about how we can prevent plantar fasciitis during the run. And one of the best really tips that I like to give a lot of my runners who have plantar fasciitis is increasing your cadence. So what do I mean by that? Shortening your stride and increasing the steps per minute is going to provide less load to the foot and the plantar fascia. So this is something that, you probably have heard before in terms of looking at cadence, and you might have been told that, hey, you should have a cadence of 180. That is not true, by the way. Okay, so don't try to strive for 180. But what I want you to think about, if for those of you that have a Garmin watch, check out what your cadence is after your runs. And I like to put my cadence actually on my home screen. So I do like a custom run screen in Garmin on my watch. And cadence is one of the variables I always like to check in during an easy run. It's not going to be an issue during your speed work. It's just not, because normally when we run faster, our cadence increases naturally. The problem that most runners get into is that we should be doing the majority of our runs in the easy zone, right? But sometimes we can get slow and sloppy. So we want to run easy, keep the effort level where it needs to be, but we also want to keep the leg turnover going. So if you notice your cadence is in the 150s, 140s, like we need to definitely increase your cadence. So for most of my runners, at least let's strive to get to the mid 160s. And if I just like mentioned, you're in the 140s, don't try to get to the mid 160s next week. So we need small gradual progressions, because you're going to notice to keep a higher cadence is going to be a little less efficient for you initially. And it's going to take your body a while to kind of change the programming from your brain to your muscles to actually turn the legs over at a faster rate without consuming more energy, because we don't want to do that. We don't want our heart rate to go up, the effort level to feel harder. We want to like run at our most efficient way possible. But if you have a slower cadence, increasing your cadence can help prevent plantar fasciitis by allowing less load to be transmitted to the actual fascia when we're running. All right. Also, during the run, tip number 7, don't run too much in your super shoes. So for most of my runners, we all know that super shoes is like all the hype, and there's so many varieties out there right now. We actually did a full episode on Super Shoes 101 with Dr. Matt Morin in episode 230 on the Healthy Runner podcast. But for most of my runners, usually no more than once a week. If you are an advanced runner, you're doing speed work one day and you're doing like long run workouts or long runs with spice, as we like to call it within our Healthy Runner community, where you have pace work within the long run, then definitely no more than twice a week. The reason I say this is because super shoes specifically are meant to get you more to your forefoot in order to actually speed up your running, promote increased force with propulsion. And runners with plantar fasciitis feel pain not when your foot hits the ground or when you transmit actually weight through the heel, like you would instinctively think, because you're like, pain's on my heel. So if I stay off my heel, then I'm not going to irritate this issue. But actually, runners during the run, if it is that high tissue irritability where you're feeling it when you're running, because a lot of runners listening to this right now are probably not even feeling plantar fasciitis when they're running. It's only like the next morning after a long run, or it's maybe after the run, or it's only in the morning time right now. But the runs that you're doing are putting some more load and stress to the plantar fascia more with push off or propulsion. So that's when it's actually stretched. So the reason I say this about super shoes is because I really find that, and I've seen this myself, that getting you to the forefoot, running at a faster rate, is going to put more load to the fascia. So if you thought like, hey, I'm going to run my super shoes a lot because I run faster, or it's going to put less stress to my joints, but you've had a history of plantar fasciitis, this is one area where you're going to want to be careful and see if you notice a difference on the days you run with super shoes versus the days you're running with more of a traditional shoe. All right. So prevention tip number 7, don't run too much in your super shoes. Tip number 8 is going to be to stretch your calf muscles after every run. So now we're going to talk about things you can do after your run. So after the run, your myofascial system is all connected, as I mentioned before, from the calf to the Achilles to the heel bone to the plantar fascia. And so more tension or decreased length at one end is going to add more strain and tension on the other end. So we want to make sure that we have good flexibility in your calf muscle complex, so the gastrocnemius muscle and the soleus muscle. And the best time to stretch these muscles is after your run. Okay. So really doing your static stretching, my favorite stretch that most people are going to feel the best stretch with is not like the traditional runner stretch where you look like you're pushing a wall, heel is down. But it is one where you're hanging the heel off the edge of a step or the edge of a curb, and hold on for balance for this little tip there. Most people who don't hold on, you're like kind of wobbling back and forth. So it's hard to actually really get into a nice deep stretch, because when we're running, our muscles are contracting, right, repetitively over time. All those thousands of steps we're taking during a run, our muscles contracting. When our muscles contract, they shorten. And so if we don't stretch after all those repeated contractions over time, over days, over weeks, over years of running, our muscles get shorter and shorter and shorter. So that's why after your run, you want to restore them back to its resting length so you can maintain the mobility and the flexibility that we need in our ankles, especially if you run in elevation. Because when we run up a hill, that requires more ankle mobility. And this is a common problem area or root cause of why most folks do get plantar fasciitis is they're lacking ankle flexibility or ankle mobility. So one way that you can focus on the flexibility of the ankle is by stretching the calf muscles. So if you want to hit both of those muscles, you do it with your knee straight, hold 30 seconds around, and then bend your knee just a little bit. And then you're going to feel that stretch a little bit lower in the calf, kind of toward the Achilles area. And that's going to stretch more of that soleus muscle. So now, coming up next, I'm going to share with you the single best recovery strategies to prevent plantar fasciitis in runners that will allow you to continue hard 5K, half marathon, and marathon training without having to worry about heel pain again. But before I do that, if this training has been eye-opening to you and you're surprised that you can actually continue to run with plantar fasciitis, or that you're not like preordained to get plantar fasciitis for the next training cycle, then we need to get this word out to more runners like you. And one way to do that is by just tapping that like button if you're listening to the video version of this, so I can continue creating content just like this that is going to allow runners to continue doing the thing we love and enjoying lifelong injury-free running and preventing heel pain from coming back. It'd mean the world to me if you can do that. Hit the like button, please, and thank you. All right, tip number 9. This is going to be foot recovery after your runs. And this is especially important for your workout days. So if you're doing speed work, if you're doing quality sessions, if you're doing long runs, then this is the time to shine. This is where you really want to double down on this during your peaks weeks of training, in half marathon training, in marathon training. You need foot recovery after your runs. So, some of my favorite tools, I've already mentioned a couple of them, is like the Naboso recovery ball. We talked about that with the Self Myofascial Release, but also the toe splays. Those are super, super important to really stretch the small muscles in your foot and actually add a low load, long duration stretch to the actual plantar fascia. So it is like a gentle way to actually stretch the fascia. So I'm always in my toe splays after my quality runs, after my long runs. I'm getting the feet elevated and actually stretching the toes, adding a nice gentle stretch to the fascia. So make sure that you are thinking about foot recovery. Other things that I would mention here is Epsom salt baths feel phenomenal for the feet. They can help really kind of get those muscles to relax a little bit more. And then it's usually best to release with a little Naboso ball. And then you can put your toe splays on and get a nice little stretch. And then elevate those feet, like relax, like recharge, right? Make sure you're taking your hydration, your nutrition, everything that you need for recovery to recover from that hard effort that you did while running. Super, super important. As you know, recovery is one of the 6 steps to how we grow as a runner. Foot recovery is so important. Like, I made it a part of that recovery. And if you've suffered from plantar fasciitis before, it is especially most important for you. So I found those tools super helpful. And even in myself, honestly, in preventing spikes in plantar fasciitis pain in my own training, I really doubled down during those peak weeks of training, most mileage, longest long runs, hardest speed workouts. It is super important. Friendly reminder, you guys get 20% using the special link for I have in the show notes. All right. Last tip, guys. Tip number 10. We got to strengthen above the foot. So specifically the calf muscles, the hamstrings, and the glutes. So these are what we call posterior chain muscles, and they're going to help us with push-off, propulsion while we're running. And, some of the best exercises that I just absolutely love to help with this is the fire hydrant exercise. For those of you that have heard me talk before, that I think that is in literature has shown this, the single best exercise to activate our glutes. So the fire hydrant exercise, I'll kind of point you in the direction of how you can start with this, or my 5 simple mini band exercises for running. That's another great video of getting 5 exercises to turn on those hip muscles. So you can kind of learn how to do those exercises, download my free ebook on how to get strong glutes. So that's our strong glute guide and how we strengthen muscles. So not only do we need to strengthen the foot core, but we need to look above the foot. Because if those muscles aren't strong, you're putting more stress every single step that you take during your running that is putting stress to the fascia. All right. So hopefully that made sense for you. So let's recap what you learned today. In this training, we covered 10 tips to prevent plantar fasciitis pain with running, and especially during the summer months. Tip 1 was to wear less supportive shoes, but don't wear your flip-flops while on your feet for multiple hours. And I don't think I really went into depth why I said less supportive shoes is because eventually you want to wean out of more supportive shoes. If you've always worn custom foot orthotics, you've always worn a stability shoe, we want to decrease the stability in your shoe so your muscles are actually providing more stability. So it helps activate and strengthen your muscles. All right. So that was tip 1. And think about that proper progression. Tip 2 was to stretch the plantar fascia. Easy, simple ways that you can do that first thing in the morning before your runs. I have a video for that on exactly how to do that. Tip 3, Self Myofascial Release to the fascia. So this is our foot roller, our football, our release techniques to how we actually release that fascia underneath the foot. Tip 4 was foam rolling the calf muscles before every run. Tip 5 was to strengthen the foot. And you can do that before your run. You can do that on non-run days. And that is really activating the deep foot muscles. The best way to do that is with the short foot exercise. Tip 6, increase your cadence with running. So check into that variable, see where it's at. And if it is less than mid 160s, then you definitely need to increase your cadence a little bit. And we talked about strategies on how to do that. Tip 7 was don't run too much in your super shoes. Tip 8 was stretch your calf muscle after every run. Tip 9, foot recovery after your runs. Like you got to double down during your peak training weeks, and you really have to be mindful of foot recovery. It's an essential part of how we really grow in our running journey and stay healthy, especially if you're over the age of 40. Super, super important. Tip 10 is to strengthen above the foot. So actually strengthen your hip muscles, strengthen the hamstrings, strengthen the calf muscles. And don't forget, guys, to download your free Plantar Fasciitis ebook that contains bonus video content and these specific actionable exercises that I mentioned today on how you're going to learn how to do them. And then you can kind of save them so you can always reference the video anytime you go to do the exercise. So just get your download by going to learn.sparkhealthyrunner.com/foot pain. Now, runners, remember there are 6 parts of your running journey that need to be optimized in order to run strong and last long. What are those parts? Mindset, strength training, run plan, nutrition, recovery, and race strategy. And when you execute Spark Healthy Runner's 6-step plan for treating plantar fasciitis, you'll not only get rid of your stubborn foot pain, but feel more confident, and so you can run stronger, last longer, get faster, and actually stay healthy and enjoy the process of running again. And you may be frustrated and discouraged if you've struggled with plantar fasciitis because you're getting so much conflicting advice. And that is exactly how Anna felt before she signed up to work with me within our signature Spark Healthy Runner one-on-one coaching program. Anna started getting heel pain 3 weeks before her goal marathon. She was struggling to work as a physician because she would get foot pain the day after a run. And she would go out for 2 or 3 miles and then would feel pain and then not run for a week and then just try again just to be in the same injury cycle. So while working together, Anna was able to keep running despite the heel pain. And at the end of the 16 weeks of working together, she was running 10-mile long runs and she smiled the entire time. Like she was just so grateful to be able to get back out there and do double-digit long run again. And Anna shared her reflection on our Google page, and she now thinks of the injury as a gift because she's now a stronger and healthier runner overall by going through our program. Or I think of folks like Liz, who currently working with right now. She is a nurse. She's a longtime runner and a marathoner who just loves clearing her mind out on the trails in Colorado Springs. And she was having constant pain at work and wasn't able to run for close to a year. Like that is super demoralizing, super frustrating, right? She tried everything, which included like several expensive, painful injections that her doctor recommended, but those made the condition worse. Once I started working with Liz, I gave her a personalized plan that helped her get better by week by week, by really not going from like being able to run at all or really stand for any length of time while she was like at work. So she was really struggling to stand while she was working as a nurse, which, like, if you think about, right, like nurses are always on their feet. And she literally felt pain when she was brushing her teeth in the morning. She had like severe heel pain. And during working together, she was able to run 8 miles by the end of the 16-week program. And I'm continuing to work with Liz right now. And I'm super proud of her for trusting the process because she had really painful plantar fasciitis for a year, guys, and she wasn't able to run. And she's back into running. She trusted the process with the rehab-specific exercises, the strength exercises for running, and the run plan, despite her crazy work hours, right? Long shifts and weekend adventures that she loves going hiking in the mountains. Or I think of people like Kate, who struggled to run injury-free for years. After 2 surgeries, shin splints, debilitating plantar fasciitis, she was told it was time to stop running. That's what her doctors told her. Luckily, Kate found us and started working under the guidance of Coach Kat, who provided her many of the injury prevention strategies we talked about today with a personalized run and strength plan for running. And not only did Kate get back to running pain-free, but she conquered a half marathon. And I also think of runners like Nicole, who took a full 9 months off of running and then was able to run 6 miles by the end of our 16-week program, or Beth, who was battling plantar fasciitis for a year and a half and was stuck at only running 3 times a week for only 20 to 30 minutes before we started working together, and then went on to incorporate speed work while half marathon training without foot pain. So these are just like 5 examples from the hundreds and hundreds of runners who have implemented this Spark method of overcoming plantar fasciitis, heel pain to grow as a runner. And in actually episode 236 on the podcast, Sandra shared her story of how we overcame plantar fasciitis right before the New York City Marathon, and then how she went on to do a full training cycle and conquered the Big Sur Marathon. So these are just like some of the examples. You can get over this condition and you don't have to stop running. It's been really great sharing with this information with you today on plantar fasciitis prevention. My name again is Dr. Duane Scotti, and my mission is to save the lives of runners everywhere by allowing them to enjoy lifelong injury-free running. And I'm the founder of Spark Healthy Runner. And if you want to fast track your recovery and get clarity and focus like Anna, Liz, Kate, Nicole, or Beth got, that's exactly what we do with our high touch point one-on-one Spark Healthy Runner coaching program, where I am your running physical therapist and coach all in one. And we work together or you can work with one of the coaches on our team. And I serve as your PT consultant, guiding the process. Learn more about our Spark Healthy Runner signature coaching program and schedule a call now by going to learn.sparkhealthyrunner.com. Lastly, if this was helpful for you, could you do me a favor? Copy this link wherever you're listening to it, share it with a runner you know who's struggling with stubborn plantar fasciitis pain, because you can save them from getting unnecessary injections, orthotics, or worse, having to stop running for months on end and not run their goal race. Will you do that for me as an audience? That is my ask. Because, like I said, I'm trying to save runners from the frustration of having to stop the stress, relieving activities that we love so much, or going to a healthcare provider that just doesn't get runners, or is just going to tell them they're too old for running. So if you're in your 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s, you're not too old for running. And I want our community to continue enjoying lifelong injury-free running. So thank you in advance for sharing this wherever you're listening to it. As always, guys, let's maintain a strong mind, a strong body, and let's just keep on running. Until next time.